All right, my friends, welcome to episode 389 of Prof and Dev Play Games. We are nearing in, or closing in, I suppose, on episode 400, believe it or not. That's at the end of the summer. My name is Larry. I am a professor, and over there is Anthony, and he is a game developer. He gives the, what's the word I'm looking for? The gravitas for our podcast? Our reason for living? Our,
jeez.
put all the pressure on you.
No.
Legitimacy. There's the word I'm looking
There
for.
you go, legitimacy.
Yes, we are too legit to quit because of you. How are you?
I'm feeling okay. A little under the weather. Just
Yeah.
getting over some congestion. I mean, it's the first, I think, cold I've had in like a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though it's not horrible, you still have that feeling of being like, oh, I don't like being sick at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I could go without doing this ever again.
This cold we had, it's been the first one, God, fucking forever. Yeah, a year longer. For at least for me, my family had COVID. I didn't, so I haven't been sick. But I don't like being sick, but man, I like singing when I'm sick. It gives me that really gravelly, weird ass fucking deep voice. Yeah.
There you go. At least you can get something out of it.
Exactly. I recorded a bunch of weird ass songs, so it felt good.
Nice.
Yeah. I've got a new one about Tears of the Kingdom coming out soon. I really like it.
Boy.
Oh yeah, that's a fucking spoiler. If you haven't gotten into the story, that the whole
I
song's
don't
a
care.
spoiler, so I won't share.
Spoil the crap out of me. I think I've already been spoiled by my work chat on a lot of things.
Yeah, well, speaking of, we are going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom today. We're going to talk about Diablo IV, and we're going to talk about Final Fantasy XVI, at least the demo. So, there'll be spoilers. Again, just like you, I don't care about spoilers for Diablo IV. So we'll talk, there's probably be some spoilers happening today. But why don't we start off with the thing that we've both played, which is the Final Fantasy XVI demo.
Yep.
You said you need to make some time for this 2-hour experience, and I was like, I've only got tonight because I'm leaving with my daughter and all this other shit's happening. So I'm gonna play tonight, and I sat down and I couldn't stop. It was. You had mentioned, or maybe you had mentioned that they had mentioned that A Song of Ice and Fire, the books, had been a key inspiration, and
Yes.
I guess later interviews said that Yoshi P or someone made the whole crew watch seasons 1 through 4 of the
Up to
HBO
4,
series.
nothing more.
Yeah, stop at 4.
Which is hilarious.
It's awesome. That's like that person fucking knows the good part of the show.
Yeah.
But the parallels to the story of Game of Thrones, it's like a remixed version, and it feels great.
Yeah, I didn't know how that was. When you hear that, they're like, oh, they want to. Game of Thrones is a big influence. There's other influences that they've thrown out as well. Of course, other Final Fantasies being huge thing. The manga Berserk is an influence, especially in the lone warrior with sword on their back. That's a very distinct style. Berserk is probably one of the more prolific manga that imagery comes from. But Game of Thrones one I was like, well, it depends on how you do this, because it would be terrible, honestly, if you just say that you're going to take inspiration from it.
Especially if you take the wrong lessons, right? Like
and I don't think they took the wrong lessons playing this. Like they didn't, not in a way that I was worried about. Now being like, okay, I see when you said Game of Thrones what you meant by it, which was really in a lot of ways more grounded characters than anything, with a level of reality to the characters and the world that they're in. Actions have consequences.
Yep.
People have motivations that aren't always out there to be shown for everyone to know. Like, there's politics going on, but I wouldn't say even the politics are like. Even with Game of Thrones, there's politics, but the reason why the politics are important is because the characters are actually compelling and have compelling arcs and hooks that make you care about the politics that they're trying to do.
Exactly. They're just not like blank vehicles to enact the politics. They have their
own. They feel like they're trying to make the politics because they have motivation for it. And I would say that's the lessons they took with this demo. Is that I'm like, okay, I see motivations now. I see what the characters are trying to do. And in 2 hours, you got me invested in the characters more than anything.
Like, I think there's one more thing that they do in Game of Thrones that they do here too. All of that is true. What you just said, that totally resonates with me. And also they take like familial relationships and subvert them or change them. You've got the mom that just doesn't like the kid because the kid didn't get the
didn't get the power.
He didn't power. Yeah, exactly. Right. And the dad who's like cold and sort of not super cold, but kind of removed a bit, and then gets real removed.
Yeah.
And then the complicated brother relationship, and then the ward relationship with the
with
Iron Island ward, which is not the Iron Islands, but whatever it is, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was the other piece that just stood out as like they understood what Game of Thrones was doing in that first book. Like just the family was fucked up. It was askew, and it was like interesting because of that.
Yeah. They really did. Yeah. There's just the character dynamics and relationships are really interesting. I just wanted you to play. I didn't want to overhype it. I knew it's my thing. I'm like, yep, this lands for me. But you liking those books so much and everything, I was like, I would like you to just play it because I'm curious how it would land for you. If it would go too far in some places of being like, this is too on the nose, or not. And clearly it landed in a decent way. And you're not the only person. Like, this has been, the reaction to this demo has been huge.
Yeah.
In a way that like hit the zeitgeist. And it's like, yeah, this is what happens when you focus on a very strong hook at the beginning and good characters.
That's the thing is like, obviously the good characters for sure, but like everything is so out the gate at a 10. I'm thinking like Final Fantasy 15 was not that.
No.
And that's the first one that I played and beat. First Final Fantasy that I played and beat, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I guess we talked about that enough on this podcast, but this one was like the first 2 hours were like there were so many hooks, and we're not even talking about the gameplay. We can talk about that later, but just the story hooks. They just started with a bang, and this wasn't like 2 hours into the game. This is like the beginning. This is the prologue.
Yeah.
And it ends like I'm still haunted by how it ends.
I've been surprised on how much that affecting that was. They nailed that last chunk in a way that I've watched now some other like reactions or people have played it and streamed it, and they tend to joke around a lot when they're streaming, and you can tell they're having fun and everything. And most of the time, they just go silent for that last bit. And like I can't even. They're like. And some are like, me, I would usually be joking and laughing at, like, sometimes horrible stuff happening, but, like, this made me feel bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's really affecting. For affected, actually, when you think about it from, like, the Game of Thrones TV show where, like, horrible things happen there, and they show horrible things happening to people. This is not horrible things happening to people, and it's, a lot of it's weirdly like faded to black off screen. It's not showing intense amounts of blood or gore. It's audio, and my God, Ben Starr on the voice acting. Holy hell, did he sell that last chunk of lines there?
He did, and several smart things Square did, but putting Ben Starr out there this last week has been really nice. Like he just seems authentic, and he like is a gamer. Like listening to him on Kind of Funny Games Daily, it wasn't like a brief. He is a fucking fan. He knows the inside jokes of that show. Like he is in deep with games, and he talked about in one of the interviews that he lost his father during the filming or the production or whatever, and he channeled a lot of that into the voice acting, and that answered for me that piece of like, how did they do this performance is like another level, and it's maybe because of that.
Yeah, it's not just good voice acting. I hear plenty of good voice acting. It's like there's an emotion there. There's a reality to what he's saying, and I think it is very affecting in those scenes because you hear that channelment of like sorrow and pain and loss, and it's really affecting, even though the screen is not showing you grotesque things. Which is very strong. I mean, we can go historically back in storytelling and how doing the awful things not straight in view of the audience can have way more effect than the shock value.
My mind fills it in maybe worse than it was.
Yeah.
But even like beyond the voice acting, which was incredible, what happened at the end where he kills his brother,
Yeah, and can't help it. He can't stop it.
Yeah, he can't stop himself. You can feel him wanting to stop it, obviously. And I just inside I was like trying to put the brakes on this whole fucking car wreck that I was watching.
Yeah.
And that's like you can't come back from that. And it's just like, holy shit, this is the end of the first 2 hours of a 35-hour game. Where the fuck is this going?
I mean, it's gonna go crazy. I'm sure it's Final Fantasy, and I still think it's gonna keep some of that. I mean, like, we're gonna kill a god at some point here. Like, it's gonna that is the end point.
Like
and
I
if
said
it's
in the
not,
Discord, you're the god that you're gonna kill. You're gonna kill yourself at the end of this thing.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the demo does a great job of setting everything up, and it's definitely landing and resonating really well for a lot. There's neat characters to follow. There's neat character hooks. My God, I am such a shipper of Clive and Jill. Like, God damn it! I need to make they need a happy ending for fuck's sake.
It's 2 hours, and I felt the same way. I'm like, these two people need to be together. I'm like, what? I barely know these people. Like, for some reason they just sold it, and it's weird. Again, selling it because I was not. There are 4 games that are coming out in this little stretch, and the 2 that I got were Tears of the Kingdom and Street Fighter 6. I was not getting this one. This was the lowest on my priority list, and after playing that, I immediately went and bought the game, which I know other people did too. That's part of the story that's happening this last week is like, this is such a great demo. People are just instantly pre-ordering it. I've read so many anecdotal reports of people on Reddit. Just like, I wasn't into this till I played the demo. And I'm like, I have to get it.
Yeah.
It just shows you how, like a strong story really hooks people in. And of course, we haven't even touched on the gameplay yet, which I thought was really good. I haven't even done the fucking second part of the demo.
I did the second part of the demo. I've played the main part of the demo twice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I skipped most of the cutscenes for the second time. I wanted to play. I played it through earlier today again. I should say happy Juneteenth, everyone. I had it off today.
That's right.
It was great. But I had some time, and I played through it again as I wanted to do a different. We'll talk about gameplay. I wanted to use a different controller layout and just give it a try on controller layout B, which puts dodge on circle. And your attack R1.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it moves the layout B is more Souls like layout.
Got it.
So dodge on circle, attacks are on R1 and R2.
Got it.
Attacks and magic. It's not perfect, but I think I like that better. But playing through it a second time, I skipped some cutscenes, but I watched, and you were mentioning those, like, the caring of the characters. There's a lot of small details, subtle things constantly throughout this demo. Like, there's a lot of care that has gone into this game and telling the story visually as well. Like you're talking about, like, Clive and Jill, and you're like, oh, the one seeing them together. They do a lot of, like, overt things sometimes, but there's a lot of subtle animations throughout all the cutscenes that they're in together that you're like, oh, they're building it. You're meant to feel this way. They're actually, like, actively trying to make you feel this way in very subtle, small ways. And it's just a sign of, like, good visual storytelling as well in that way. It was like, oh, this is firing on, like, all cylinders here. Like, the whole team had a story they wanted to tell, and I clearly were given the budget to tell it and the time.
Yeah, I think we're lucky with... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just Ben Starr had said, like, he's been recording for 4 years.
Fuck, what? Really?
He started recording pre-COVID.
Jesus.
In 2019, mid-2019. That's when they started recording lines for this game.
Oh my God, that's forever.
Yeah, he's had to, like, keep this under wraps for a long time. Most of the voice actors have, and they still haven't announced a good, probably 3/4 of the voice cast.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to spoil characters, as far as I can tell.
Because you're like, oh, this is the voice of blah, blah, blah. Like, well, shit, who's that?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, this game's been worked on for quite a while. And talking, like, hearing about Yoshi P's story and stuff from one of the press things, that it was a small team originally. It was like after Heavensward on Final Fantasy XIV came out, that's when this team got spun up. And they kind of, so that was like 2016, 2017 is probably when they had, like, a small, like, 20, 30 person team just starting to build this, crack the story, start figuring out the type of game they wanted to make, start scripts so they can start figuring out actors that they want. So it's just been a long time, and it feels like this one has, so far from that demo, stayed the course on the vision of that core team, what they wanted it to be. Which hasn't been the case in previous Final Fantasies for a while, I'll be honest.
Right. Yeah.
You can read about all the turmoil that has happened basically from 12, 13, original 14 as well, 15.
Yeah, right.
Like, it hasn't been a good time since 10.
Damn.
So, and that's what it feels like. It feels like a team that they're just like, this is their vision, this is what we want to make, and they're being allowed to make it, basically.
Did you read the interviews where the main trio, talked about their favorite Final Fantasy games?
Yep.
Like 12 and 10. And
12, 10, 5 was the big one for most of it. Which is an interesting one, because I think on the West, we don't consider 5 very highly. Like, I like it mechanically, right. But the thing is we never got 5 until, I think the earliest you could actually play it legitimately was like 2001 in the US, on PlayStation.
And that was after 7.
Yeah, years after 7. Like, we just didn't get 5. 5 wasn't brought over.
Yeah.
But it definitely, I think I've heard that from a Japanese standpoint, it is a favorite in Japan. But they went through every release as they were coming out. Kind of.
Right, exactly. So in, like, temporal context, it was, like, probably hit harder, maybe.
Yes. So it was crazy. Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me, like, I saw that the Tactics and 12 were in there, because a large portion of the team that actually built this game has their lineage from Tactics and 12.
It reminds me a little bit of the Ubisoft studios that like, I forget which, it was like Montreal and someone else, like, they would alternate doing Assassin's Creed, and it was like the Syndicate team did Odyssey, and like, I love those 2 games, and then whatever team that did Origins did Valhalla, and I don't like those 2 games.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. This is Creative Business Unit 3. Such a great name.
It's such a that name. I read a comment on Reddit earlier this week that said something like, Creative Business Unit 3 is the Nintendo of Square Enix. They're slow, but when they hit, they fucking hit.
Yeah, like, and I mean, they were given the chance to do this after how well they've done on 14, turning that around. Like,
well, fuck, man. I mean, I know the game's not out yet, but just based on the demo alone, like, good job that they gave them that much leeway, because it's going to fucking pay off.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the news has been like that the pre-orders have been or still are behind Final Fantasy 15.
In Japan.
Okay.
Worldwide, no, but in Japan, yes. Like, pre-orders were lagging behind in Japan. Like,
is it because it's like a, I don't know, medieval Europe kind of thing?
Probably. Or? But that was purposely chosen, because if they looked at sales numbers from the last many entries of Final Fantasy, and it sells far more in the West than it does in Japan. Like, that's another reason why they're choosing to do it, and why the original voice acting is all done in English. So that is a thing to people. If you're like, man, I always play JRPGs and things out of Japan in Japanese. No, this one was actually recorded in English first.
And then mocap lip stuff was English, right?
All English. The Japanese dub does not match lips. And the script was written in Japanese, translated to English, recorded in English, and then the Japanese script was changed to better match the English voice lip sync. So the CBU 3 has been very clear, and Michael Koji Fox, the head of localization, everything on this has been like, no, English is the primary language for this game.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I read something too. Oh, sorry.
Not that the other language voice acting is bad or anything. They're just like,
no.
This is just, we recorded in English first. We intended English to be primary.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially if you're leaning into the Western market where the first language is English, or the second language, other language spoken is English. So you're going to get a bunch of people. But I also read something interesting about that in terms of Japanese having, I know it's 5 vowels, but then I think it was 14 consonants versus English, which is 12 vowel sounds and 24 consonant sounds or whatever. And like English speakers can read lips. Japanese speakers, there's not a lot of lip movement, especially compared to English, that it's more pronounced when the English doesn't match.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Linguistically, it was really cool to kind of dig into that. Just the writing in the 2-hour demo, like I know there's the team of writers, I'm sure. I just always think of Koji Fox as the head of it, or maybe just the localization. I don't know what.
No, he was the head of it. So, it's fine to say like there's a team of writers, but he is at the head of that. So,
because it was so well written. It was like there wasn't like almost like a wasted word. Like everything hit and landed, and it was not cringy. It wasn't even like average. It was stellar, and I just wow. Like if they've been recording since 2019, man, they've been able to kind of refine the script over time, I'm sure.
It sounds like it. Ben Starr, some of the stuff that he has said, and then some of the other voice actors, Ralph Ineson, who we'll talk about again in Diablo IV, because he's a voice actor in that as well. He has a very deep, gravelly voice. He's not in the demo. He's just been in the trailers. He's Sidolphus. He's our Sid.
I was gonna say I have seriously avoided most Final Fantasy 16 stuff until now, so I don't know who that is.
There's a Sid. There's a Sid in the game,
cool.
And there's a it's voiced by. It's a very distinct voice. You're like, oh yeah, very deep, gravelly voice. But they were talking that they were given a lot of freedom when recording lines as well, especially after being in these characters consistently for a year and a half, where they felt like the voice actor Ben Starr said it wasn't like he was playing Clive anymore. He was Clive.
Wow.
And he just had a sense of like better way to deliver, or if a line just didn't feel right with him, like they said that the whole crew that was doing the voice recording and Koji Fox and the writing team were more than happy to like, he could give suggestions and try out different line variations, and they were very receptive to it and didn't stop him. So I think there was a lot of iteration while they were recording as well, just to find those natural rhythms and make the lines work. I think that shows. I think it's, in a lot of ways, when you look at that, and it's like, I do agree, the writing is generally pretty great. It's not, I don't think that it was written great to begin with. They just gave themselves the time to make it great and iterate and do edits and edit it live.
That's how great writing happens. Like, it doesn't happen from the blank page. It happens when you revise it 60 times.
Yeah.
And you've like the chuff is basically like washed away or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that's where they got to. And I think it shows, at least in the first 2 hours. I'm hoping that it continues. Like, well, we're already at 10. We're at a 10 out of 10 of like just going hard at the beginning. I'm like, do we continue to escalate? I don't know.
There's some media, and I don't remember where I read this from. It was some media person who's like had played 6 hours somehow, and they said like it just keeps going. Like you haven't seen anything yet, basically, and it's like holy shit.
Yeah. So you played the demo. I'm trying to think. A couple months ago, they did a London event and they did another LA event for press people, and they got to play for 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
So they got to see. Yeah, they got to see probably, it wasn't consecutive hours, but they got to see, I think they said probably about another hour and a half of after where the demo ends. And then they got to do a second part, which was kind of the iconic challenge in the demo.
Sure.
Just expanded more than what it is in the demo that we got. So they've seen more. And if they say that, that's cool. I have no clue where we go after this demo immediately. I kind of assume we're cutting back to present day Clive. Like we've done,
I think so too.
We've seen the younger Clive. You've seen his arc. We know the badge that he wears now.
Yep.
And so I assume we're cutting back to the present. And I'm like, I don't know where that's going, because that's going to probably be insane.
Yeah.
Active Time Lore. Did you use it at all?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Playing through the second time, you can start active time loring long before they tell you that it exists.
Oh, interesting.
So I did it like the first cutscene with whenever he's staring at the fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a mercenary crew that he's a part of. I think the Bastards or something, like some very prominent mercenary company in the world based on the lore.
That's cool to get that backstory back then.
Yeah, I was like, let's see if this works, and you could do it all the time. I was just like, oh, okay,
cool.
And all that information, like I've seen some people like, man, I just feel like I'm going to press this all the time, and I'm like, you can, but it's also made clear that all that information will show up. There's a hideout in the game. There's eventually like a central home base for you, and there's like a journal there where you can read all of this stuff, the lore, if you want it. It's really meant to be there if there's something that you're like, who was that again? What was that? You can quickly kind of get a refresher in the moment. But yeah, I was pretty surprised that you could do it real early. And then at the end, you can do it there, and it tells you about Lady Annabelle and her betrayal, specifically.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Because that was fun. I mean, they set up some good villains. I'll say that on that part.
Yes, they did. Mm-hmm.
They give you people to care about, and they give you people to hate.
And like several layers of it, like several threads that are gonna, you just know they're gonna pay off eventually. Like if they set up that meticulously in the first 2 hours, holy fuck.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
I was gonna say, honestly, I feel like this is gonna be a story that's going to hit. Like I've been craving a story like A Song of Ice and Fire since I read that series, and like I haven't really found anything to that caliber. And so far, this seems promising.
I mean, it's gonna. I only temper you on the fact that I'm like, it's still the Final Fantasy. It's gonna probably be weird, and that's the interesting thing where they differentiate from, A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones is like that's such a. I mean, I won't call it gritty fantasy, but it's very grounded. There's not a lot of magic in general.
Yeah, I guess the weirdest part is Danny's whole timeline. That's where it gets weird,
Yeah, and I mean that's just and it's very interspersed. Like there's just not a lot of magic. Now you're taking those inspirations and putting it into a series where there's a ton of magic. This is high fantasy setting. And they're not getting rid of that. I mean, you have the giant icons battling each other. They're going into the people can just use magic. Really, actually, aside there, cool caste system in the fact that people that can do magic without crystals are enslaved.
Yeah.
Because crystals are worth a lot, and if people can do basic magic, it's better to make them do it than expend crystals on it.
Right, because it's a limited resource.
Yeah, I was not expecting that, and that's the whole tattoo on the face, is saying that you're a person that can do magic, a bearer of magic without needing a crystal.
Yeah.
And that makes you less than human.
That's so interesting because like that subverts that, because you think that would be like the most powerful people. But
Yep.
Wow, interesting.
They're captured, they're taken as kids. They're looked down upon. It is a subversion. It's setting a thing of being like as you said, people that you would expect to have power are stripped of it completely from birth, basically.
It reminds me of the sorcerers in Divinity Original Sin 2, where like if you had the source, you were shackled.
Yep, that's
how
basically it.
Yeah,
and I mean, there's probably something here that the bearers and stuff tend to not be able to do like super powerful magics.
Sure.
But they can do some magic, and you can see little bits of that while playing mode. There's actually a character that you can talk to off to the side that is called Slave Master.
Jesus.
Yeah, who is overseeing a bearer who is heating water for dinner. It's not a kind place, and you get the sense there that Rosaria, where you are, is generally pretty nice to their bears overall. Like They're still a lower caste, but not really abused in that way. But it makes it feel like most of the other nations are pretty awful to these people.
I hope there's a lot of side quests and things that kind of flesh out that side story stuff.
I assume so eventually. I'm curious when that will show up. Again, I just don't know how this game progresses. Like, it does have open areas eventually. It's just, I don't know when you get to them. Because I feel like it's going to be pretty on rails for a bit to just get all the story set up. And I know that there's another time jump. Like, that's one thing I know. Play this game at Clive when he's young, 15. Clive when he's 28, which is where the game starts at with him. And then Clive when he's 35, so 7 years after.
Right.
And I don't know how that's all split up. Like, I don't think we go back to Clive young anymore. I think that little couple-hour block that we just played in the demo, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know unless there's some sort of secret that comes out later that you don't understand until you go back. Like, it felt like this was the purpose of the early flashback.
Yeah, and so I don't know how long you're at 28 years old as opposed to 35.
Yeah, sure.
I guess we'll find out, though. I do recommend anyone just give it a try. I guess we haven't even talked about the combat.
No, yeah,
which is wild. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, you played the other challenge, so I want to know, it kind of builds on the combat, right?
It does. I mean, that one you get access to Garuda, so wind, Phoenix stuff, which you do have in the prologue, and you have Titan abilities. And they give you a bunch of ability points, and you can buy a bunch of powers and mix and match. I mean, this is an action game. I haven't really played Devil May Cry, but everything I've heard, this is very much Devil May Cry style combat. It is. People have also said with the control team where I changed it, like it's very Bayonetta as well. But this isn't. You control Clive. That's it. There's no party here. There is a party sometimes. You have your dog with you. Torgal, best dog. Hands down. Torgals. They better not kill that dog.
Oh god, they will one day.
Maybe. Hopefully they don't. See, here's the other thing with this, and where I'm like, well, you take some lessons from Game of Thrones and all of that, but the one thing from Final Fantasy that is very different from all those is there's always hope, and it doesn't end on a sour note. Like, these games are uplifting. Maybe end a little weird, but they're not a kick in the nuts.
Okay, well, that's good.
Like, they tend not to be, and I'm like, well, I hope that it's not. It's like, yeah, it can be dark and have these, like, tragic things that happen, but in the end, it isn't a tragic ending. It's actually a happy ending. Right. That would be more fit with what Final Fantasy as a franchise has consistently been. There can be hints of tragedy at the end. It's just not, I'll be honest, I don't know where Martin's going with the end of Game of Thrones, but if it's anything like the way the TV show ends, there's a lot of pain there. A lot.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that the show did was, like, have weird ass motivations for Dany and Tyrion to go to King's Landing and burn the thing down. Like, I can see, like, in the hands of Martin, that working out really well. In the show, it was dumb as fuck.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that they don't kill the dog, because the dog is just freaking awesome in combat as well, because you can using the D-pad, if you don't have it cycle it away from potions, you can tell the dog to, like, attack and, like, set you up for combos, do, like, a regen heal, and then, like, an all-out attack kind of thing. It's a ton of fun. It's a really just nice little thing. It makes you feel like you have someone else there. But combat itself is just, I mean, it's super combo based. It's very fast, but if you can get the rhythm down, the dodging, counter dodging, there's a ton of depth to the mechanics. Which I've had to watch some videos of people showing off what you can do. And yeah, this is the guy who made it, Ryota Suzuki? I want to say, I have that wrong. He has said that this is his masterpiece.
I saw that quote this weekend.
Yeah,
Was
he
he
just
the guy
said
that worked
that.
on DMC or
DMC,
okay.
Dragon's Dogma, DMC 5, and Monster Hunter World. He was a big Capcom person. He's been at Capcom for a very long time. And
did he leave Capcom to do this, or
he did, but
they
he didn't. They
collaborated?
didn't. This is the thing that came out because people were like, "Did I poach him for this?" And it's like, no, he was friends with just people on the development team, and he was looking for something new.
Mm-hmm.
It just basically was right time, right place, right time.
Right.
And he wanted to do something different, and he was friends with people who were on Creative Business Unit 3, and they just got to talking, and it was like, knowing that they wanted to do something a bit more actiony, and they're like, all right, if he wants something new, let's present him this. Is this interesting to him? But it wasn't like they went and targeted him specifically.
Yeah, it wasn't like a headhunting kind of thing. Yeah.
No, it's just because he was there at the right time, and they're like, yeah, you're good at this. Let's do this.
When they said that Platinum and someone else also worked
Platinum
on this.
and the Kingdom Hearts team.
Ah, okay, that's probably it. That's within Square, but yeah.
That's within Square. That the Platinum team, the people that worked, one of the main people that worked on Nier Automata,
Mm-hmm.
what helped out with some aspects of the combat as well, or worked on some fights and different things. So when they decided to go action, they went all in, and I knew the combat was probably going to be good because really the thing that they've been showing for the past 6 months pretty constantly is they're really proud of their combat when they're showing it. So I'm like, okay, if you're proud, you're proud of it, and you're letting people play a lot of it at these press events. So they have to at least have some level of confidence in what they've made. And I play it, I'm like, it's fun, it's good.
Yeah, it is fun to play. It's sort of why I tuned out of the media, because I get it. I don't need to see this much of it. But playing it was cool. It felt good, and then I put on one of the rings, which was like an auto combo ring, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't know if I know how to use it. Like, I think you just mash square, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, because then I was trying to figure out if it helped me, like, I don't know, transfer between enemies. Like, I kept moving around the battlefield more, maybe. I don't know if I really recognized any combos that I was doing, but I don't really know.
Early on, you don't have a lot you can...
Maybe that's why. Okay.
Like, in the prologue, you don't have a lot. Like, the main ones that you can do in the prologue, which takes a while to learn, is you can do between sword attacks, if you time it right, you can fire off magic bolts in between each sword swing.
Interesting.
Building up to a level, like a fourth swing and magic thing that then, like, launches them backwards. But
okay.
you have to get the timing down right. I can do it every once in a while. But I mean, that's the, like, level of granularity in the combat system. It's like, you don't need to know that, but there's tons of stuff like that you can do, of being like, interweaving different attacks. Like, you can spend ability points to make it so you can do like a charged magic bolt. So you can hold down in the normal way triangle to, like, charge your magic bolt and release a bigger one. But you can, as someone found out, if you, like, put your thumb on the corner of triangle next to square, you can hold down triangle as you're charging it, but also do sword attacks while it's charging, and then release the charged attack at the end of your combo. So, like, doing some things doesn't block you from doing other inputs.
Right, so you get a lot of nuance. You're really doing
yes.
a lot of...
I think there are people that are going to go real deep with this system. Like, you're going to see YouTube videos, and you can already see some of them. People have done the Iconic Challenge and put up YouTube videos of being like,
yeah, sure,
watch this crazy combo that I did.
That's interesting, because
like,
sometimes, like, in those kind of games, like, you know, if you think about the face buttons, each one's like a lane, and when you're on one lane, you only can use that lane.
Yeah.
Wow, they're crisscrossing streams or whatever. That's cool. I want to, maybe I'll go back and do the Iconic thing before Thursday, just to get a feel for the combo thing, because I was like, how's this ring? I was just kind of fucking around with just that ring, and I was like, I don't know if it's really doing much for me. I did, you know, the not the story mode, but the higher mode. It felt fine.
Yeah, I mean, the only difference between the higher mode is that the rings aren't auto-equipped for you.
Oh, that's right. That's
the only difference. if you say story mode, they just auto-equip three of the rings for you that they've
I
deemed
forgot about that.
That's
right.
There isn't
the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, it's basically, I think they equip the one that makes it easier to do combos. The one that makes it so that you dodge by pressing R1 sometimes. Like you'll be able to, time will slow down and you'll get to be able to dodge out of the way. Right. And maybe the auto potion one. I think it's the auto potion one.
Okay.
And they're just like, yeah, use that.
But you can already do inside the normal mode anyway.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could also start on story, and then once you get comfortable, start taking those off.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to do difficulty and accessibility.
Yeah, totally.
And you're just like, no, tune it however you want it to be.
I like the combo thing specifically because with Street Fighter 6, the modern controls have given me access to like so many moves that I never could do before in Street Fighter because I didn't know the fucking inputs. So, if there's a whole rich combo system, if you can't really do them, that ring allows you to do them. So you get to see more of the game. It feels good.
Yeah, and I feel like they're like in a lot of like, I haven't tried that one specifically, but I would want to say that you might still be able to be precise sometimes if you wanted to. Like, be on the right icon abilities that you want and using a special attack when you want to use it, not just spamming. If you're spamming, you're going to get stuff that you want and just kind of coming out. But there are, in the Iconic Challenge, there was one, there's a Phoenix power called Heat Wave that you can learn. It's not normally equipped. And it's a magic counter, basically. It sends out a single sword, like fiery sword arc at an angle in front of you. Cool. Has a cooldown. But if you do that whenever a magic attack is coming at you, it will counter the magic attack and send out double flame blades at the enemy.
Whoa.
And have the cooldown time. So it's like meant to be this whole crazy like magic counter.
Right. And
landing it feels real good, I will say. That's another thing with this game that is great, is what makes the combat feel good. It has a good gameplay feel. While you're doing the stuff, the way that time slows down at different points, just a little bit here and there. Lots of effects on the impacts and the sound, so it feels like crunchy when you're hitting and doing your combos. They do a good job. Again, it's a very polished game. I have played it. I'm like, this is a very AAA game.
Was this supposed to be out a year ago and they kind of delayed it, kind of like Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield, maybe?
I don't know, honestly. Actually, they said that they've delayed it I think they delayed it 6 months. I think it was supposed to be a holiday originally. And not that they ever announced it, but Yoshi P gave an interview saying like, hey, it was whenever they showed, not the first trailer, because the first trailer happened and they waited a year and showed another trailer. And it was in that one, he was like, hey, here it is. I know it's been a while. He was like, I was hoping to have it out sooner, but here's another trailer. You'll know when it's coming out because we will ramp up our marketing 6 months before it comes out, and which is what they did.
Right.
But it sounds like he originally had a holiday 2022 game. That's where it was targeted. But I think that was the thing, was like, due to COVID and everything else, it's just like, we need more time. Like, there's no way this is happening. And so they got more time. And I think there's a thing, again, Creative Business Unit 3's success for Square on 14 has given them a lot of clout to push and say, like, we just need more time. And I think they have the goodwill of any executives at Square to just get the time they need.
I'm, God, the buzz around this demo must be reverberating through their studio. Like, see, told you.
But I mean, they did a stream, a 4-hour stream on Friday in Japanese, a Japanese stream with Yoshi P and all this team. They were just 4 hours, them sitting in front of the screen. It's like what Yoshi P does when Final Fantasy 14 live letters. They sit there. It's like an entire workday, and he's just sitting there answering questions and fan chats and stuff, talking about different aspects of the game. But that's where they talked about feedback from the demo, directly addressing, going like, yeah, there's some frame rate issues. We're going to work on those. Although I didn't notice it. I don't know what you played on.
I didn't either, yeah.
That's the thing. I'm like, maybe there were. I think there was a couple points where I saw hiccups during a lot of, like, the big icon battle. not constant, but it was just like a transition-y area, and then but whatever. I didn't really notice it, but other people have, but they're like, yeah, working on that.
I mean, look, I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom, and compared to that frame rate, I don't notice frame issues.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There was that. They're gonna make a thing so you can turn off motion blur completely if you don't want it. Those aren't for day one. There's unfortunately a day one patch. That's where they broke that news. Yep. They didn't want it, but they're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. It's 300 megs and they were clear. If you don't do this patch, the game is still very playable, and you're unlikely to have a problem. They just found a couple rare problems that you could break your forward progress.
Well, once you have that many beta testers, or QA testers, just everyone playing a fucking demo, like, well, this thing happened. We don't want that shit. I guess we do need a day one patch.
Yeah, and so it's not like that's one thing they were clear. It's not day one to make the game playable at all.
Right.
Like it's if you don't have a good internet and can't do this, and you have a physical copy of the game, you can still play the full game, and you shouldn't have a negative experience at all. So, but I mean, they apologize profusely for it. Like that's what they do, and that's what Yoshi P does because he doesn't want to disappoint. But also made it clear why it's happening. So, this team, they've just have a lot of goodwill, and also people have been kind of amazed on how like open they are to just talking about the game and being transparent about what they're doing and the feedback they're hearing, how they're addressing it. So,
I mean, it speaks. I mean, obviously, Final Fantasy 14. They've won community game of the year.
Oh, geez, like ongoing game, like the whole thing.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
their communication is pretty good.
Yeah, it's just lessons learned basically from running an MMO. And it doesn't it changes what they're gonna do because this is just a single player game. But I'm happy to move on. I can gush about this thing for a while. But we've already been going for a bit, so.
Well, I'm glad you told me to pick it up, so I'm excited. And
I'm glad it landed for you, honestly. Oof, Again, I didn't want to overhype it to any. I was like, it landed for me, but man, still coming back to the thing of, I knew it was influenced by things that you enjoy, and sometimes that stuff just doesn't land for people who enjoy other things because it's not taking the right lessons. It's not taking the things that you enjoy out of it. I'm glad this one did, because I do feel like this could be a pretty special game story-wise.
Yeah, that's what came across for sure, and I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm 35 hours. I will finish it in less than half the time that I spent on Tears of the Kingdom. I'm at 85 hours right now, according to my Steam.
Holy cow! Well, I mean, I have some coworkers who just finished it at 150 hours.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's probably what I will do because let me go back to Breath of the Wild real fast. Yeah. Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. And I love the shit out of that game. And when I beat the game, I didn't come back very seriously. I came back and did a couple of DLC things, didn't really do much. I got to the penultimate quest. Well, actually, not really, because there's 3 quests at the end of the Golden Path. One where, I mean, I don't know how much you care about spoilers for this game.
No.
So I'll ask you
now. I'm okay.
Okay. So there's a quest line where you're going for the 5th stage, which is a very cool quest line. And it was like 6 hours. It took me 6 hours. Like that's what we did this weekend. It was Father's Day weekend. I took my daughter out, got a hotel room, and we did climbing walls, had a climbing gym. We did swimming. We played games. We did a bunch of make-believe, but we played Tears of the Kingdom. And we probably put in about 6 hours over the weekend. And it was just this quest. I intended us to beat the game. This quest just went on, building the body for this sage, and you end up building a mech. Like you just have your 5th buddy is a fucking mech. So now I'm running around the surface with my 4 sages plus the 5th sage, which is a fucking mech. Yeah, it's really cool because that mech can walk across Bloom, and now I have an easy way to navigate the depths. So it's really cool. So I get that. The quest after that is to get your Master Sword. I already did that. Do you know where the Master Sword is?
No, I don't know exactly where it is.
I'm not going to spoil that for you. I don't want to spoil that for you.
Okay.
But when you do all the tiers, you find out where it is, and as soon as I knew where it was, I had to get it. So then I had to figure out how to get it, which is not how you think you're supposed to get it. It was very cool. So then I got it, and they're like, "Oh, you already have the Master Sword. That was the next quest." Basically, like, you're supposed to get that. You already have it. Great. On to Ganondorf. And then we stopped for the night, and it was time for bed, and or we stopped earlier. But anyway, so we didn't play any more that day. My daughter went to bed last night, and then I turned on my Switch, and I was like, "Okay, it's time to go." Oh no, we had tried once to go down to do Ganondorf, and I ran into a silver Lionel, which turns out I didn't need to fight, but I fought anyways, and I got down to like a sliver of health, and it killed me. And I was like, "Fuck, I had to get through that thing. Maybe I'm not ready." I used all of my fucking meals on this fight. Like, well, I'm not ready for this. I need to go get some more meals. And then my daughter went to sleep, and then I started farming. And as I was farming, I just happened upon more quests that I hadn't done, and I was just like, "Wait a second. If I go and beat Ganon, I'm not gonna go see the rest of what's in this game." So I decided, I looked it up, and I was like, "How long is the final quest?" It's about an hour. And I realized that I don't have to fight the Lionel. So then I can do this. I can beat the game in an hour. Or maybe an hour and a half or whatever. But if I do, I'm not going to come back to it. So I decided, and my daughter was cool with it, let's watch the ending. So we watched the final quest. We watched Beard Bear go through where Ganondorf is, beat Ganondorf, the whole ending, which was awesome. I cried at the end a little bit. It was really cool. Post-credit scene was really cool too. And I feel so fucking free. Once we did that, I know where the ending's at. I can go and beat it at any time. Now we're just wandering around just wherever we go, like how the game is meant to be played. Instead of mainlining the story, I feel so free to just, I will beat Ganon toward the end of the year before we do Game of the Year discussions. I'll beat it myself then. But until then, I'm going to do Terrytown. I'm going to build my house. I'm going to do all this other shit that I haven't done yet. Because if I beat Ganon, I won't. So I feel very cool, very happy about that. It's very cool to feel free to just go explore again. So then tonight I was playing before the podcast, and I was just like, I haven't been here before. Let's go see what's here. I went down to the depths and did a bunch of stuff down there. And I don't feel compelled to like roll credits.
Yeah,
because I've seen the end of the story now, and it's like the story is very cool, very cool.
I think the thing that my problem is I've done too much of it just wandering around doing crap. And I've lost my thread basically because right. I did do 2 temples, and probably that's maybe a 10% of the actual time I've spent in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because
so
I've just run.
Stuff,
yeah, I've done a bunch of side stuff and running around, and even not a ton of the quests. It's just random exploration stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna go in here, and what's down here? What's in the depths? Let's go figure this. Like,
right? There's so much.
Much to do that I kind of am like, oh crap. I think I've done this to myself. And where I'm not bored with the game, but I've definitely lost the like that forward momentum of being like go. Because I constantly get distracted.
Yeah, and for me, the first probably 40 hours was like that, and then I just buckled down. I'm like, I'm going to go through the main quest now because I want to see where the story goes. Once I started doing the memories, I was like, oh, I want this. It was the impetus for me. And the main stuff is awesome, and it has a ton of forward momentum. And I'm really happy that I did that, and then decided to stop at the last quest and do other stuff because there's so much other cool stuff in this game. It's unbelievable.
It's
and
huge.
Now I really like the depths now because so much of the end stuff is in the depths.
Mm-hmm.
I started to get more comfortable down there, especially now that I have a fucking mech. And it's just I started exploring more Sky Islands, and just there's so much. I'm just very happy to like, if I play like half an hour a night from now till the end of the year, like I will be happy just doing small little things, advancing the side stuff, because I really want to feel like I've done as much as I want to do before I beat Ganon.
Sure.
And that Ganon fight looks pretty cool, and there's a very cool part where it does the typical boss rush thing where, like in Wind Waker, where like you go back through Ganon's temple and you have to fight all the bosses again.
Yeah.
That happens here. And if you don't have the sages, you fight all the bosses again.
That makes sense. Okay.
It's very cool. But if you do have the sages, something else happens, and it's very cool.
I actually saw some of that because my son accidentally started that process.
Oh, nice. Okay. So he's at endgame then.
Yes. And he's like, nope, backing out of this, went back to a previous
Yep.
save. Because he didn't mean to. He just kind of happened. He's like, oh no. Like,
That's what happened when I fought the Lionel. I was like, I just used all the shit I needed for Ganon. I went back to previous save. I'm like, I will do that later.
yeah. Yeah, he's farther than me, so he's just pushing story and going and going and
Yeah.
going. I'm sure he'll be done within a week or two, probably, with his screen time. It's been fun. Like, that's a thing that I've been enjoying, is just watching him play. And my daughter's playing now, but I feel like the game for her is just a horse collecting game.
Right.
That's all she wants to be doing. She wants to
That's
get her
fine.
horses. She's going to put them at the stables. She's going to get her pony points. She's got her wagon now, and she can carry things around in her wagon. Like, that's the game to her. That's all she really wants to be doing.
I love that this game could be whatever you want it to be for whoever you are, you know?
Yeah, it's really funny. I'm just like, you are my daughter. I appreciate you.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, for my daughter at this point, she really just likes running around exploring and collecting materials. I'm like, dude, fucking awesome. Go for it. Please collect me a bunch of materials. And then she just loves solving the puzzles when I'm playing. She has like really good ideas how to solve the puzzles. She just can't always manipulate the controller.
Sure.
So that's been really fun. And then just fucking hospitality mode TVs in fucking hotels. Just so annoying. Like I brought everything to set up to the HDMI. It wouldn't accept any input. Couldn't get it to turn on the TV. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because we just snuggled in bed and played on the handheld. And just had such a time playing that and Pokemon Snap.
Okay.
So yeah, Breath of the Wild. God damn it, Tears of the Kingdom is it's different than Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild like revolutionized something in a way that was like so special at the time. But this does something that ties everything together. Like that final that the quest where you're putting the sage's body together, the mech together, does it in such a way where you're like, that's what all the shrines are for. That's all of that is practice for this. And it just ties all those things together.
Nice.
Really neat. It's nice. And I've only done 43 shrines. There are 152.
I've done a lot more than that.
Okay, yeah.
That's the thing I've done. I've explored and done a ton of shrines.
Nice, yeah. Now it's time for me to go to the shrines and like max out my shit.
Yeah. And there's a lot of fun shrines. I'll say that. I haven't come across shrines that I despised, like the motion control ones of the tilt ones. Yeah. I haven't come across any of those. Or ones that have made me that mad. So, yeah, I've been enjoying it. I already knew about I didn't know the context of the mecha, but I knew you had mecha that followed you around. I saw some people playing that, and I was like, that's cool. Also I knew. I was like, man, you have a big party of people following you.
Yeah. You got
I'm
5
like,
people
holy
following
crap.
You? Fucking Xenoblade, man.
I know, I'm like, that's why Monolith Soft was helping here.
Hell
like,
yeah.
Guys, how do we get this on screen on the Switch?
It gets framey every once in a while, but I'd never felt like it was because of them. Although, like, I love those characters around, but to fucking track down the one you want to hit them, like, I wish their spirit colors were different. Jesus Christ.
Honestly, I think I wish there was a whole different way of activating their abilities. That's
100%.
That's contextual in menus, not needing to run up and talk to them.
Or just hold L2 and hit a face button. That's one of them, because
that's fine too. Anything like
I've died so many times trying to get fucking Yonobo's fucking rolling bomb shit.
Sure. So that is one complaint I will say of that is true of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They really, really don't like using their menu that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, right. I'm like, there could be a lot of refinement on your entire like UI UX here of this.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, I haven't. Do you have anything more to say on Tears of the Kingdom?
No, I'm excited to fucking do Terrytown finally. I'm not gonna skip it this time.
Nice. And for me, work being busy and stuff, I've been spending a lot of time with Diablo IV.
Nice.
It is numbers go up the game. I'm trying to think. So I'm past the story. I'm the level 65 rogue. So you finish the campaign about 50, roughly. And I could finish it at 50, do my capstone dungeon, and I could open up the next world tier. So world tier 3, which is the world tier that actually like turns on all the in-game stuff. So world bosses spawn, Helltide spawn, Tree of Whispers stuff. Like, so you have all this activities now go on. It reminds me a lot of Destiny in its structure of in-game. How there's just activities in the world to do, and they're kind of on timers. Things happen, you kind of come across people, and you do some stuff, and you move on. Oh, and nightmare dungeons as well, which is a whole thing that feels very Path of Exile, like in their maps.
Are they the same activities like over and over again, or it kind of gets boring? Or
I haven't got bored of them yet. They're similar activities, that's for sure. They all kind of give you different things and like what you're doing. Like and some of them you kind of do while you're doing other things. Like the Tree of Whispers stuff is like, I don't usually target doing Tree of Whispers things, tasks, but I'm just in an area doing something else, and it's a quick like couple minute thing to do like one task for it and then move on. So it just kind of fills. There's always just things happening. But from an action RPG standpoint, it is by far the most polished of all of the ones I've ever played. I mean, Diablo 3 is polished. Diablo 4 is just as polished, if not more. I think combat's more, a little bit more interesting than 3 was. It's just slightly, it's still fast, but a little bit slower and more meaningful. Trying to decide how you're comboing through things, you need to be much more aware of what's going on around you to get out of ground effects and things like that, because you'll die pretty quickly if you're not paying attention.
I saw that for hardcore, they're on a disconnect, they're letting you use the auto scroll of get the fuck out of there, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a potion or something, that you can use, to not die.
Right, basically. Not dying.
I wouldn't play hardcore right now at all.
Yeah.
Pretty much any online game, hardcore would scare me, just because there's so many technical issues that could go on.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens if my internet just dies on me? Like, I don't even want to think about that. But generally, it is a good game. Like, it's keeping me invested in going. I'm curious what seasons are going to be like. The story ends in a nice, conclusive way. I will say, from a story standpoint, good story. Much better than 3's. 1 and 2 didn't actually have that much story going on during the game. Had a lot of lore, but this one actually has, like, compelling... another try at a very, like, you are part of a story going on. Cutscenes and narrative. That voice actor is back as, like, I would say your Deckard Cain replacement. But not Deckard Cain. Much more grumpy, cynical Deckard Cain. Another Horadrim. But it has nice...
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a cool character, Lorath. Absolutely. If you played the beta, he's in the beta.
Oh, yeah. I remember him.
Yeah, he just has such a deep, gravelly voice. He's such a cynical Horadrim.
But the one that when you go into, like, pray or whatever, he's like, I'm not fucking praying.
Yeah, he just walks into the town. He's like, screw this crap.
I like that guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. His character just gets better as the things go on.
Awesome.
Really like it. But it ends in a way that feels conclusive, but now we're open, but not completely all threads tied up. So I'm very curious where they go as season starts rolling out, because they said seasons will have story.
Oh, interesting. So if you miss a season, you miss story?
I don't know how it's going to work in that way. I don't know if it's going to miss it or if we'll just add on. So
I see. So if someone comes in late and misses, like, the first season or two, like, that would suck if they missed.
I'm curious on how the story is they're gonna do that. I mean, they haven't specifically said, they haven't done a huge amount specifically on this is the content that you will see in the season. Because it's not set to start probably probably in a couple weeks. They'll probably do a detailed, like, here's what's coming and what to expect. Sure. But it's compelling. Like, what's there? I'm like, all right, let's see where you take this, because this could be neat. I know you said you don't care about story spoilers.
I don't.
You do not fight Diablo.
What? In a Diablo game, you don't fight Diablo?
Nope.
Interesting.
Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen.
That's cool. Okay.
Lilith is there, and you deal a lot with Mephisto.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Not fighting Mephisto, but you deal a lot with Mephisto, which makes tracks, because Mephisto is Lilith's father.
Okay.
Yeah, you get their it's really Lilith and her motivation. You deal with some of the angel stuff, but not huge, just Anarius. There's a big question on like what the hell's going on in heaven right now.
Yeah.
Because they're not. It feels like the angels aren't really paying much attention or really caring about.
But there's no Tyrael in this.
Tyrael's not here. The thing is, Tyrael was raised up at the end of 3 to be back on the council.
Yeah.
But I believe he was still mortal. Like, he didn't become an angel again.
Oh, okay.
Because he ripped off his wings.
Yeah, that's right.
And he became mortal. I don't think he got it back. So there's a good chance I don't think they would kill him off screen, but there's a chance that he passed away in the time frame.
I was just worried that like this game was gonna have like Deckard Cain show up and become Diablo or some fucking stupid thing.
No, they do a nice job of like some of those older characters. Like Lorath references Deckard Cain a couple times. Like they clearly they knew each other as Haradrim and stuff. And who is in this game as well? Mashif, who was he was the caravan? Was he the caravan person that took you to the desert, or
from Diablo 2?
Yeah, he's from Diablo 2. He's the captain. He was in Luke Ghislaine. He took you to Karast.
Yeah,
he's the person you talked to. Yeah, he's in this game as an older guy.
Cool.
He's very senile, and he thinks Lorath is Deckard Cain. It's funny there. I'm trying to think of who else. Like from Diablo 3, the scoundrel companion. There's a whole quest line with him, side quest, about like what he's been doing since Diablo 3 in the last 30 years. So if you play the Diablo games, there's a lot in here of little side things like that, of being like, oh, I know this character. That's interesting, and like what they've been doing, the continuations of their storylines from the other games. So, yeah, if you like Diablo, I see no reason. Diablo 4 is a good continuation of the Diablo franchise. Yeah, it feels real good. It plays real good. Numbers get bigger. You get better gear and kill bigger things. Like,
I just don't know when I'm going to play it. I've got, so much shit. I didn't expect to play Final Fantasy.
I know. So. I mean, I stopped Diablo. Final Fantasy comes out. So, Thursday night. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's what I've been doing.
Cool. Yeah, damn. 3 amazing games. And one's just a fucking demo. We'll get the real one on Thursday. Cool. Well, this was Prof and Dev Play Games, episode 389. If you like us, please rate us on your podcast service of choice. And we will be back next week to talk about that fabled Nintendo Direct that will be announced.
That's right. Hopefully, crossing fingers. Let's see.
Crossing the fingers. All right, folks. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.